Turning Point, an essay by Arthur Thomas Lee. I didn't know Charlie Kirk of Turning Point, USA, just that I didn't agree with all he said or how he always said it. But also, now, from the news, on 9/11, the day after his death, that he leaves behind a wife and kids, too. I didn't know any of the students at Evergreen High School near Denver, Colorado either. Not the two who now lie in St. Anthony hospital beds in critical condition, nor the one who first opened fire on them, followed by himself, killing himself. I only know that parents, the parents of those shot and the parents of those almost shot and the parents of the shooter, they are weeping somewhere and probably offering up prayers to their God. Does it really matter which God? And seeking comfort too, and understanding, and the strength to go on, all of which may not for a while yet come. And that St. Anthony, after whom the hospital was named, was known for his devotion to the poor and the marginalized, and that he had a reputation as being a finder of lost things, which is why, now, for the Catholics, he is a patron of lost things and lost people, and a patron of miracles, and you can offer up prayers to him too. I didn't know Tanner Scoresby either, just that he lost his fight with T-cell lymphoblastic lymphoma yesterday at the age of 18. Only weeks into his senior year at a high school near me where he played football like one of my boys, who was also a senior and also 18. And that they most certainly battled each other for victories at least once a year going back several years, being on opposite sides of the ball and from opposing schools too, on account of their different addresses and some previously drawn boundaries not drawn by them. And that just a few weeks ago, the community within those boundaries and the community without, they came together to help his family pay the bills. I didn't know the people in the Ford Focus near the Idaho-Utah border either. Not the two adults, one of whom lost his focus, veered off the road and then overcorrected, causing the car to roll. And not the juvenile in the back seat either. Only now that two adults are gone and a child whose future hangs in balance is fighting in a hospital somewhere for his or her life, does the pronoun really matter? And maybe that hospital is named after a saint to whom you can offer prayers again. Neither did I know the other 30 or so people gathered last night at the park, at the poorly attended Moving Toward Hope Suicide Memorial and Prevention Walk that I, with all but one of my boys, was at. Republicans, Democrats, Mormons, Catholics, atheists, agnostics, Hispanics, Caucasians, straight, gay, male, female, non-binary, all there, and all alike, more than different. Nor did I know those individuals whose premature deaths by their own hands brought us to that park. Nor the person for whom an ambulance was suddenly dispatched mid-memorial, sirens blaring as it raced down the road and passed us by, all while some ragtag band on stage continued to sing How to Save a Life by the Fray. Nor any one of the hundreds of people whose grassroots gathering in the same park at the same time, but in memory of Charlie Kirk, garnered news attention, subsequently overshadowing our humble fare, which did not garner any cameras nor attention other than our own. I didn't know the ones who bowed their heads in prayer within that bigger gathering, nor the ones in other parts of the state or across the country who likewise raised their voices, but also sometimes their fists, calling for patriotism and justice and once or twice vengeance too. And I especially didn't know the 8,460 people in the United States, nor the 150,000 plus outside the United States who lost their lives yesterday too, for one reason or another. Does the reason really matter? Just now, that we are fewer today than we were yesterday, and that we will be fewer tomorrow than we are today. All I know is that death, it brought us there, every one of us, and that there were at least 15 people who could not be there and never would be, only in memory, and that the framed pictures carried by many, lit later by a dim candlelight vigil for Suicide Awareness Month, represented some of those people. And that the girl in the orange hoodie, whose name was Grace and who had no frame to carry, carried in her heart instead a picture of her brother, smiling as he often did before taking his own life. And that in our hearts, mine, my boys, was a picture carried too, a picture of Nate Witteberg, who was like a brother to my boys, and whose absence was the reason for us being there. And that when my second oldest son, who could not be there, called to tell his older brother, who had been Nate's best friend, that he loved him, he meant it. I knew that too. And that is why, when the band on stage began singing about holding on to what you've got, I couldn't help but step back and look at my boys, 3 of 4 sitting crisscross applesauce on the matted grass in the fading light, and then think about all of them and all they'd been through. Nor could I help remembering that one night not many years earlier when my oldest, in desperation, made a plan to take his own life, and how I raced about the city, searching frantically for any sign of him, and praying frantically too. And how that second oldest son, whose name means keeper of the parks, also raced around the city. And how, just outside this very park, I found the eldest's car, a Ford Fusion, which last word means united. And how I hurriedly walked the grounds, asking every passing stranger I could if they had seen someone who matched the description I gave. And how, when I got back to my car, I sobbed. And how, on the other side of town, his brother cried too. And how then, as the street lights flew by, light, shadow, then light again, my oldest finally picked up my phone call. And how he shared with me what he had intended to do, having almost lost hope. But how instead he remembered his 3 younger brothers, and in them found the strength to keep going on. Shall we not too? And that is why, when the morning media spoke of Charlie Kirk and America's big problem and the fraying of our society's very fabric, I fell to my knees and prayed for the strength as a people to carry on, but be better than before. And that is when my wife, my second wife, who came into my life and offered healing where there had previously been 5 broken hearts, shared with me a vivid dream she had had between yesterday and today, in which she said we were somehow a part of an extensive home renovation, while hosting an open house at the same time, and everyone, she said, was invited. Random, I know, she also said, dismissing it as meaningless, but I beg to differ, and feel now as I did then that it was, in fact, prophetic. And that is why, last of all, I share this abiding truth, that while death alone, sadly, has proven not enough by which to defeat division, I'll be damned if it cannot today be the start. And out of all the words in this essay, many of which you will understandably never remember, there are only a few that really matter and that I hope you do. Hope, grace, love, we, me, you. May they, now and tomorrow, then into the next day, and on, be the turning point in the big, untamed country that is each individual's heart. Amen.